Hey guys, welcome back to round 17 of Inside the Clinch. My name is Eric, and as always, I'm joined by my longtime friend Johnny. We are coming off not the most exciting card this past weekend with Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Ciryl Gane. But to make up for that, we do have a stacked pay-per-view this weekend. UFC 259, 3 title fights. So for this pay-per-view, we are actually doing our first mass giveaway. So we are going to have one giveaway for each of the title fights, and the winner will receive one of these Inside the Clinch face masks. Brand newly designed, exclusive. You'll be one of very few people to own one of those amazing masks.
Put it on. Let the fans see.
All right. Let's see. This is my mask anyway, so hold up.
Looks like there's some beautiful fabric over there. What is that? Silk?
Very soft cotton.
Silk or nah?
Nah, it's cotton. But you see,
Come up closer to the camera. Wow, what a beautiful mask. And this could be yours.
It is mine now. But yeah, so we got a few masks. Like we said, one for each of the title fights. So in order to win the mask, you have to comment on the post on our Instagram, which is at Inside the Clinch MMA. You have to say who you think the winner is going to be, what round, and what method, as well as reposting the post to your story. The winner will be announced the next day, and the cutoff is before the fight starts. So let us know who you think is going to win, how you think they're going to win, and you may be the one that wins the mask.
Yeah, and make sure that you're following us on Instagram, Inside the Clinch MMA. That's the only way you can be eligible. So follow us and repost it to your story. Thank you so much, guys.
How you doing, John? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing good. It's good to see you as well. And you said it best. Not the greatest card. Honestly, I thought it was a pretty boring card. It was like 8 or 9 decision fights, and then one was a KO or TKO.
Yeah, it was only one stoppage. The rest went to decision, unfortunately.
Yeah, overall, not really an entertaining card, but the UFC is gonna make up for it because this weekend, in my opinion, one of the best cards of all time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I'm gonna say that. Dare I say, one of the best cards of all time, Eric.
Dude, I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this event for a long time. A lot of big names, a lot of big matchups on the card coming up this weekend. But first, let's just give a quick rundown of what happened on the boring event this past weekend, UFC Fight Night. So the main event, Ciryl Gane got his hand raised against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This fight came with a lot of criticism to both fighters. Dana White especially criticized. Ciryl Gane, he said, he won, but that was that. Nothing really to be proud of. He was hoping one of the two would kind of make some kind of a big finish or make some kind of a statement for the heavyweight division. Because like we mentioned the past couple of episodes, the heavyweight division is stacked right now at the top of the division. So, Dana, I guess, was hoping that they would keep the hype going in heavyweight, but I don't know. Jairzinho seemed very gun shy. He didn't really engage, but in my opinion, Ciryl Gane, he played it right. He was very light on his feet as always, keeping his distance, and he picked Rozenstruik apart. I mean, it was not the most entertaining fight, but as far as Ciryl Gane is concerned, I think that was the right game plan.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that Ciryl Gane, it wasn't an entertaining fight. It was a pretty boring fight, as you said. But I feel like Ciryl Gane just played it safe. He fought the smart fight because one punch from Jairzinho Rozenstruik, that's the end of the night for you. We saw what happened to Alistair Overeem winning the entire fight, and then last second gets knocked out by Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He has incredible strength, So I feel like Ciryl Gane, I was impressed by his performance. He fought smartly. He fought like he has a lot of experience. He didn't rush in. He didn't want to prove anything to anyone, and he got his hand raised. I don't consider him any worse of a fighter. If anything, I think he's a better fighter than I previously thought.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if what the fans wanted, just kind of a bite your mouth piece and swing kind of fight, this fight would have been over in like 30 seconds. Both guys have knockout power. Both guys are tremendously strong. But, there is a level of fight IQ you have to layer into the game when you're at heavyweight, especially because, like you said, one punch and, not only will the fight be over, but, that could be a change in the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Listen, man, the fans are never going to be they're never going to appreciate anything. Like, imagine Ciryl Gane went out to fight and he got starched, right? So then Ciryl, right after that, what are fans going to say? Ciryl Gane sucks. Like, what was all this hype? Yeah, exactly. So I feel like he fought the smart fight. and he proved that he's not just a reckless. He's not a reckless heavyweight. He's a tactical fighter.
I
And
agree.
I feel like he's going to be a problem for anyone in the division because look at him. Not only is he a great fighter, but look at his athleticism. Look at his freaking physique. He's a beast, and I think he's gonna do big things in the heavyweight division.
And also to mention, I mean, he trains with one of the scariest people in the sport, Francis Ngannou. You know, they train at the same gym. Both are physically amazing. You know, they're built strong as hell. And usually people that are built the way they are very tense, very stiff. You know, those guys are both very flexible and very fast and agile for their size, which is very, very impressive.
So say Ciryl Gane climbs with the rankings. Francis Ngannou is defeats Stipe, and they're sets a face off. Who would you pick in that fight?
Ciryl Gane and Francis.
Mm-hmm.
I think Francis. I don't. At this moment in Ciryl Gane's career, I would say Francis. You know, Ciryl is still young in the game. He hasn't been doing MMA for too long, so he does have room for improvement. He does have time to improve, but I do think Francis is just a lot stronger. He's a lot bigger, and I mean, Francis is just a savage, man. I don't. There are not many people that can beat Francis.
I think it would be an interesting fight, honestly. And I feel like they've said to the public that they would be they don't want to fight each other, but they would be willing to fight each other if that's what it took to be the champion of the world.
Look, if
So
Ciryl Gane gets a few more wins and he's going to be in the top 5, top 3 of the heavyweights, I mean, there's not going to be. Look at Francis right now. He's literally beaten everybody to the point where he has nobody to fight except for the champion. You know what I mean? Ciryl Gane can see himself in the same position within a year or two. And, you know, if Stipe retires, I don't know what John Jones' situation is, but if Francis holds down the belt, I mean, it's definitely possible for them to cross paths, and I think it'll be interesting. But Francis, I believe, does have an advantage.
so what's next for Ciryl Gane?
Volkov? I don't know. Volkov probably doesn't have a fight coming up. He also just came off an impressive win, top ranked heavyweights. I think that makes sense for Ciryl Gane.
I think Volkov or Derek Lewis, either one.
Derek Lewis would be a good one as well. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not opposed to either actually. Which do you prefer, you think?
Mm, Probably. I want to see him fight Volkov. I want to see if he could get like overcome that height advantage, that reach advantage. If he's
And the power, man. I mean, Volkov's power
yeah,
has just improved so much over the last couple of fights. It's crazy.
yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Ankalaev and Kirillov. We have a lot to discuss today, so like let's move. Let's
Yeah,
move
we're gonna
past
try
this
to make
card.
speed through some of these guys because, like we said, not the most exciting event, but we do have a lot to discuss. So,
Yeah, so Ankalaev defeats Kirillov. What were your impressions of the fight?
I thought Magomed, you know, had a very great game plan. I mean, he took him down. I felt like he just was winning the fight all around, standing up and on the ground. Again, not the most exciting fight, but you know, we saw some very nice grappling, very strategic grappling, similar to the Khabib style of grappling that we've seen in the octagon. You know, and Nikita Krylov is, you know, he's not no bum. He's a pretty solid contender, and to see Magomed Ankalaev be able to perform like that, I thought was very impressive. And you know, as I said over his last win against Ian Cutelaba, Magomed Ankalaev is definitely someone to look out for in the division because he's going to be coming up those rankings very fast.
I agree with you that he is someone to look out for, but unlike you, I was kind of disappointed with his performance this weekend. I mean, he did decisively win. Like, I'm not gonna take that away from him. He did win the fight. He's a better fighter than Krylov, but like with the hype around the hype around Ankalaev, I thought he would come out here and starch him. You know, I thought this would be like he would win more decisively. This was very close. If you look at the striking numbers, if you look at the significant punches landed, it was a very close fight. Like, yes, you could see if when you're watching the fight, you could see that Ankalaev is winning, but I think it was by a slight margin.
I agree. No, he definitely needs to make some improvements if he wants to make it to the top of the division. But I mean, I'm impressed with the guy overall. I do think he can make these adjustments, and he will, I believe, make these adjustments. And I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the octagon again.
So moving along the card, we had Montana De La Rosa versus Mayra Buena Silva. That fight resulted in a majority draw. You have any takes on the fight? You want anything you want to say about the fight?
Nah, that wasn't the most exciting fight. I think we can move on.
Yeah. Okay. So then we had a pretty exciting fight between Pedro Munoz, who defeated Jimmy Rivera via decision. It was I mean, Pedro Munoz definitely outclassed him. It was evident to see who was the better fighter was that night. But I thought it was a pretty entertaining fight.
Yeah, I mean, Pedro Munoz had a beautiful game plan with the leg kicks. From the first round, he got Jimmy Rivera's leg jacked up. We were from before the first round was over, we saw Jimmy already having a hard time stepping on the leg, putting weight on that leg. Um, you know, he didn't slow down. Rivera didn't slow down at all, though. He kept trying to go for that knockout, and he got close a few times. Towards the end of the fight, Pedro Munoz, I think, got a little bit too reckless. He was kind of just like leaving his head out there. And Jimmy Rivera does have that crazy knockout power. So I think it was a bit reckless for Munoz to do that. I know that's kind of his style. He likes to brawl instead of just more of that strategic tactical fight. But I don't know. I thought that was a bit reckless on Pedro Munoz's win. Overall, I thought both guys did amazing. Jimmy Rivera, I know he's coming off another loss, but I still think the guy has a few good fights left in him. I mean, he's a solid contender, but I just think it just wasn't his night.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so moving along, we had Alex Caceres, who defeated Kevin Kroom via decision. One thing that I wanted to note about this fight is something which you sent to me. So Alex Caceres, Alex Caceres, he made $148,000 this fight approximately, right?
Yeah.
Where the two fighters, what were the names? Gane and Ankalaev, they made around $105,000. So I thought that was something very interesting.
Yeah, he was actually the highest paid guy on the card. I mean, from what I was able to see online unofficially, I don't know how accurate those numbers are.
No, he was the second highest paid. Munoz was paid 162,000.
Oh, was he? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Carceres has been with the UFC for a long time. Not the biggest name, not the best career, but he has been with the UFC for a long time. And I mean, I get that would be my only explanation, but I guess I'm impressed by that.
I mean, that's a great contract he has. What a lucky guy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great fight. He got I believe a fight bonus as well, which is one of the reasons why his payout was so high. But great win for Alex Caceres.
Yeah, so let's just do one more card, which was on the prelims against Thiago Moises defeated Alexander Hernandez. You said you had some thoughts on this fight. What did you want to say?
Yeah, well, first off, congrats on the win to Thiago Moises. He was our 2020 Submission of the Year winner. He had a decisive win over Alex Hernandez. I was watching that fight. Alex Hernandez, did have a very good, interesting come up in the beginning of his MMA career and his UFC career. But I feel like after that Cowboy fight where he just got picked apart, I don't know. The guy's not there. I mean, I don't like his attitude, his mentality about the sport lately. Like, for example, he, in my opinion, completely got owned for 3 rounds. Thiago Moises had a decisive win. And when they were reading the cards 30-27, 30-27, Alex Hernandez has his hand raised, and then he's upset when the decision goes the other way. And not only that, then he went on to, just to not to give excuses for the loss, but he doesn't believe he lost, which I think is just
so what he said was watch the fight with no volumes, like don't listen to the commentary, and then you decide who wins the fight. But like
I don't know. I didn't watch too much volume because I was actually snowboarding this weekend, so I was just watching on my phone. But I don't know. I saw Thiago Moises dominate Alexander Hernandez.
I mean, it was. I mean, in terms of like the amount of punches they landed, all that stuff, it looks like it's similar. But if you watch the fight, it's not really close at all. Thiago Moises was clearly dominant in the fight.
I agree with you 100%. So I'm just a bit confused why Hernandez was contesting as much as he was.
So it's time for UFC 259.
Yeah, the time we've all been waiting for, man. This is I think right now set to be the card of the year, and like you said, could be the greatest card to date that UFC has set up so far. 3 title fights, just top to bottom, big names on the card.
Let me just read off the names of before like looking at this card. There's a few fights here that I wasn't aware that were happening. So let me just read off the names. So we have Jan Blachowicz, who's the light heavyweight champion, is taking on Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion. That's the first title fight. Then we have Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. That's the second title fight. Then we have Petr Yan versus Aljimain Sterling. And then we have Khabib's cousin, Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. And for the first fight on the main event is Thiago Santos versus Alexander Raychik. That's just the main event.
That's crazy. Any one of those fights could be a main event on a pay-per-view alone. That's just a crazy main card.
Even the fighters on the prelims, Dominick Cruz is fighting, Song Yadong is fighting, Joseph Benavidez is fighting, Askar is fighting, Kai Kara France is fighting. This is a freaking insane card, and this is just and there's also early prelims with another, I believe, 5 or 6 fights. So this is gonna be
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
be
looking at
insane,
that
man.
now. I mean, the early prelims, they usually have 1 or 2 fights. This is 5 fights on the early prelims alone. This is going to be a huge, huge pay-per-view. I mean, I am excited for this, man. So let's start. I guess let's just go from the main event and go all the way down. So Jan
Yeah, start off.
Blachowicz versus Ciryl Adesanya. They're going to be fighting for the light heavyweight belt, which is Jan Blachowicz's belt. He's putting it on the line. Izzy's moving up to 205 for the first time in his UFC career. I mean, this fight is just I don't know what to say. I think Ciryl Adesanya is going to get his hand raised. Jan Blachowicz has some incredible power. He's a great boxer, but I think Adesanya is a more well-rounded MMA fighter, a more well-rounded striker. We've seen Adesanya be able to take some pretty hard shots to the chin, and he holds up fine. But Jan Blachowicz, that's power Adesanya has never felt before, in my opinion. Adesanya has tools, I believe, to keep the fight at a distance. I think that he can pick apart Jan Blachowicz. I have a feeling he's going to utilize leg kicks to slow down Jan Blachowicz. And I think, just the side, I feel like Adesanya is longer. He's going to be able to use that advantage as we've seen him use it in the past. And I don't know. This fight could go either way, but I believe Adesanya has what it takes to get his hand raised.
I would have to agree with you there. I feel like, Style Bender is just like on a different level when it comes to striking. Former kickboxing world champion. What was he like? 75 wins, 5 losses in kickboxing.
Something
And
like
then
that is ridiculous.
currently 20-0 in MMA. Most fights he won like pretty decisively. He lost split decision to Marvin Vettori. That was a close fight. He had a close fight with Kevin
Who lost?
Gastelum.
Adesanya's
He won via split
Yeah,
decision
right.
with Marvin Vettori. Then Kevin Gastelum, that was a pretty close fight as well. And Anderson Silva gave him some trouble as well, old Anderson Silva. So I'm going to side with you. I think Ciryl Adesanya is going to get his hand raised. I feel like he's going to be able to pick him apart. But the Polish power is the Polish power, bro.
Legendary Polish power.
The legendary Polish power, he lands one time and you're out. So the Polish power, he started off his UFC career 2 wins, 4 losses, and after that he went on a run, winning 8 out of 9 fights. 1 loss being to Thiago Santos. So most of his recent wins are via knockout. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he's able to knock out Ciryl Adesanya, but I highly doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Jan Blachowicz, since 2017, like you said, with the exception of that loss to Thiago Santos, since 2017, Jan Blachowicz has just been phenomenal. I mean, he's polished up, a lot of holes in his games. He's gotten tremendous power. As much power as he had before, he has even more now. I mean, this guy is just a machine. And, it's pretty late in his career. He's not the youngest guy in the roster. To still be able to see him do this kind of stuff at his age is very, very impressive. But, there's a hungry rising star after his belt. And, we're going to see if he's going to be able to defend it or if Adesanya is going to be a 2-divisional champ. I believe the 4th 2-divisional champ in UFC.
Yeah, so on Ciryl Adesanya, his former opponent, Paulo Armla Costa, has been in the news lately.
Oh man, what a clown!
He basically said that he lost to Ciryl Adesanya because he was drinking the wine the night prior. Well, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, what a clown, man. I mean, first he was making the excuses that he had like a leg injury in like the night before the fight, and then now he's coming out months later saying that he was drinking too much wine and he was hungover for the fight. I mean, if that's the kind of fighter he is, I mean, first of all, just to say I don't buy that excuse. I think that excuse is bullshit. But for him to even go out and say that, I think it just shows his lack of athleticism. I mean, this is his very, very first title opportunity. How do you go out and drink to the point where you're going to be hungover for your fight? It's your very first title opportunity. Like, I don't know. I don't buy that. And even if that is true, is that a champion you want to see in the UFC? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's very professional.
So say they got a rematch, right? Do you think he's going to be able to pull off the arm law?
He's not going to do it. Adesanya is going to destroy. I said that since the fight got announced, Adesanya is just going to destroy Costa. Costa, he's a physical specimen, but I don't think he doesn't have it. You know what I mean? Like, he has, I guess, power to knock out power, but he's not the most precise striker. You know what I mean? He's not the most diverse striker. I think he has power, and he's a good-looking, marketable guy, and I think he has that going for him, but I don't think he's the most impressive MMA fighter I've seen, to be honest. I think there's too much around him.
Definitely not. I mean, after that fight with Ciryl Adesanya, how can you call him one of the best MMA fighters? But for the fans, when we say Amrlah, some of you are probably thinking like, what the hell is that? So basically, Paulo Costa, when he was during the press conference when he was supposed to fight Israel Adesanya, he told Israel Adesanya that he doesn't know how to do an arm lock, but he said, "You don't know how to do an arm lock." So now, so now that's a little insider joke that Eric and I have. But yeah, let's move along to Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson.
Yeah, so the Lioness is back, returning her belt again. You know, Megan Anderson she's a tough contender. Amanda Nunes is coming into this fight at a minus, I think you told me yesterday, minus 1250 favorite. Now, while I do think Nunes is far superior and a far better MMA athlete than Megan Anderson, I do think those odds are a bit spread apart. Megan Anderson she does have a different build than the rest of the women that Nunes has
She's a
fought.
big girl.
She's very tall and she's very lengthy. Like her limbs are very long. She has very long arms, very long legs. And we have seen that she does have knockout power. Now, I don't know if she'll be able to knock out Nunes. I highly doubt it. But I do think this is going to be a bit harder for Nunes of a fight than we've seen for Nunes' past opponents. You know what I mean? Except like we've seen how Nunes fights against someone like Cyborg, a massive, intimidating woman. She demolished her like without even breaking a sweat, pretty much. So I don't know. I think, the Lioness is, the queen of women MMA. She's one of the best female athletes. I think her and Shevchenko are.
She is. Yeah, I would say.
The two of them are the top female MMA athletes I think I've ever seen. Megan Anderson, she's a great athlete and she's had a great career so far, but I'm not sure if she has what it takes, but, it's definitely possible. It's not outside the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, Megan Anderson's coming off a win over Norma Dumont. That was via knockout. Nunes is on an 11-fight winning streak. She last lost to Katzengano, I believe, in 2014. So, as you said, Megan Anderson could win. Nunes has been knocked out before. For those of you that forgot, Nunes has been knocked out twice before. So, it's in the realm of possibility. And if you're a betting man, you want to put some money on Megan Anderson, I don't think that would be the worst idea because it could happen. Is it likely? Probably not, but it could happen.
For sure.
Yeah, but I feel like Megan Anderson, her only path to victory is going to be if she knocks out Amanda Nunes. I don't think she's going to be able to submit her. And yeah, I feel like Amanda Nunes is either going to win this either by knockout or she's going to win it decisively.
I think there's going to be a TKO. I think Nunes gets her hand raised before the decision.
Yeah, so Anderson is actually coming. Anderson lost to Felicia Spencer, and Nunes is coming off a win over Felicia Spencer. So does that say anything? I don't know, but we'll see on Saturday night, I guess.
So moving on to the first title fight of the evening, Petr Yan versus Aljimain Sterling for the bantamweight belt. Now, this fight has been in the works for a while. They were supposed to fight a few months ago, but Petr Yan had some trouble getting out of Russia, so the fight had to get canceled. This time they brought him to America early. He was training in Florida. He's training in Vegas. He's training with all the savages. ATT, I think, is where he's at right now. So he's been acclimated here, and we finally have the long-anticipated fight between Aljo and Petr Yan. As you guys can see, I'm rooting for Petr Yan this weekend. I think he's going to knock Aljimain the hell out. I mean, he's one of the craziest, I think, strikers in the division right now. His Muay Thai is just phenomenal. We've seen what he's done to Aldo. We've seen what he's done to Uriah Faber. It's just the guy is a phenomenal striker. Aljimain Sterling, he's not a bad striker either. He has a very diverse set of tools, but I don't think he's as precise. I don't think he's as strong and as accurate as Giannis. So I don't think that, his striking is going to be a problem for Petr Yan. I think if Aljimain, does want to kind of get the fight into his own world, I think he should try to go for a takedown and kind of utilize his grappling and his BJJ. But again, Petr Yan, he's been training in and out of Dagestan throughout his career with, those wrestling savages. So even though he's not primarily a wrestler, I do believe he has the wrestling defense and the wrestling IQ to be in there with Aljimain. I think Petr Yan, a lot of people aren't very familiar with him. He doesn't speak very much English, so it's hard to do press conferences and media with him. But the guy's just a stud. The guy's a phenomenal athlete. I think he's going to be champion for a while at the bantamweight division.
Yeah, so Sterling's key to victory is obviously going to be via takedown, via grappling, via maybe a submission, something like that. I think Jan's takedown defense is very underrated. I feel like even if Sterling is able to take him down, I don't think he's going to be able to do anything to him on the floor. I don't think that Jan is going to be able to knock out Sterling, but I think it's going to go to probably a decision. But I think it's going to be a great fight.
I don't know. I have a feeling Jan is gonna knock Sterling out on the way in for a takedown, similar to like I don't know. I feel like Jan is gonna go for. Excuse me. Sorry. I think Aljimain Sterling is gonna go for a takedown, and Petr Yan's just gonna knock him out on the way in. Maybe something similar to what we saw with Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis. I don't know, but I mean, I'm very heavily rooting for Jan. I love that guy, man.
It's I'm not really rooting for Jan, nor am I rooting for Sterling, but I do think Jan is going to win. Listen, Jan currently is 15-1. He has one loss to some guy, I believe that Dagestani fighter. His name is Magomed. So just by the name, you already know that guy's a savage. He has a loss to him via split decision, and then later, a year later, he avenged his loss and he defeated Magomedov. So basically, if you look at it in terms of like GSP, like GSP was lost to some people, but he was able to avenge the loss. So this is kind of similar to that. So Jan, I don't really see it. There's not history shows us that Jan is not gonna lose this fight.
Title shot.
Yeah, Chicago, let's go.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, man. Petr Yan. I don't know. I think he only fought like I think last year was like the first time. I really hope he stays active. He's very exciting to watch. Obviously with the COVID situation, it's hard to get him out of the country. But now that they have him in the States, hopefully they can keep him here for a bit, so he can compete a bit more actively. I mean, that guy is a stud. There's a lot of killers in that division coming after his belt, so there's plenty of fighters to keep him active.
I think that Sterling is a stud as well. I think he's a stud. I think Sandhagen is a stud. It's a division of killers, as you said. So this fight, I'm probably the most excited for on this card. And let's see if Sterling can get his hand raised.
So next on the card, we have Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. Islam, like you mentioned, is Khabib's cousin. In my opinion, he's another one of those fighters that's a definition of a pure mixed martial artist. The guy's a phenomenal striker. The guy's a phenomenal grappler. He has conditioning. He has the pace. He pretty much has it all. He's very early in his career. He's someone that hasn't been super active, but for him to be in the same weight as his cousin Khabib, he couldn't go to the very top because I doubt he would ever fight. The cousins would ever fight each other for the belt. There's just too much love there.
They would never fight each other.
Right. So Drew Dober, number 15, the guy's a stud. The guy has some crazy knockout power. The guy is very strong. Not the most precise striker I've seen, but I think he does have some very strong punches. And if they land, they could lead to some big problems for Islam Makhachev. I think Islam is going to be able to win this fight decisively. I think he's coming in at a 3-1 favorite right now, if I'm not mistaken. To me, those odds make sense, but Islam shouldn't take this fight too lightly. I still think this is a fight where he can dominate and put on a very impressive performance and hopefully make his way up to the top of the rankings.
Listen, Khabib was in the news recently, and he was saying that Islam Makhachev is the next UFC lightweight champion, and I couldn't agree more. He's a stud, as you said. Many people say that he's the better version of Khabib. Like his striking is clearly better than Khabib's.
There has been some locker room whispers about that for sure. You know what I mean?
People say that in AKA or wherever they train, Islam at times gets the better of Khabib.
Yeah, which is very, very impressive.
Very impressive. So I see Islam taking this fight. As you said, Drew Dober is a stud. I'm a huge fan of his. If he wins, I'm gonna be definitely very excited for him. But as you said, I feel like this is just they're just setting this kid up to lose, like in a way, because Islam Makhachev is probably gonna he's probably just gonna dominate the entire fight.
Yeah, and Khabib actually came out and said this week that Islam Makhachev is very likely to be the champion at lightweight before the end of 2021. Now, as long as Islam can stay active, I think that's very achievable for him. My one, I guess, knock on Islam is his lack of activity in the lightweight, in UFC in general. He hasn't been super active. Like I said, partially it could be because he doesn't want to go all the way to the top of the rankings where his cousin was, but he was ranked number 14, number 15. So there were some fights he could have taken to move himself up the division and put a bigger name for himself out there. So yeah, as long as he's active, I definitely see the belt a possibility for him in the very, very near future.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned was power. That's something that Drew Dober possesses. So I feel like if Drew Dober somehow is able to land, it could be a bad night for Islam. And
Absolutely.
many people forget that Islam is not undefeated. He's lost before via TKO. So it's possible that something like that could happen again. But as I said, and I'm going to say again, I feel like Islam is just an elite level athlete, elite level striker, elite level grappler, and I don't really see Drew Dober taking this fight.
100% agree with you there, man. So starting off the main card, we have Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic. What are your thoughts?
So Santos currently on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Teixeira. He got submitted, and he lost to John Jones. And remember when he like destroyed his knees with the MCL, ACL tears. He has a win over Yan, who's fighting for the belt this weekend. So that's something to note. And then Rakic is coming off a win over Anthony Smith. He has a split decision loss to Ozdemir the fight prior to that. I'm probably gonna go side with Rakic on this one. I feel like he's a younger fighter. He's slightly longer, and I feel like it's just stylistically it favors him. So I'm gonna side with Rakic on this one.
Yeah, I'm not really going to disagree with you. I think this is going to be an exciting fight to start off the card. Santos, as we've seen, is a savage. He went the distance with Jones with basically no knees, which is just insane.
And he was landing some heavy shots.
Dude, I was watching that fight. I thought John Jones was going to get knocked the hell out any second, man. I was scared.
I was scared. I mean,
scared.
Every single time John Jones is fighting, I'm scared. Like, I'm nervous for him. I don't want to see John Jones lose.
The GOAT.
Hell yeah.
Okay, and to start off the prelims, we have Dominick Cruz taking on Casey Kenny. Former UFC champion back after a layoff again. Dominick Cruz is making a return. He's another one of those fighters, that isn't super active at this point in his career. We do see him on the broadcasting side of the events, on the interviews. He does the commentary for the events. And in my opinion, he does a great job at that, and I think it suits him well. With his lack of activity at this point in his career, I think he should definitely start to consider retirement. And I want to say this before going into this fight next weekend. I do think he probably will win this weekend, but in the event that he does lose, I know there's going to be thousands, if not millions, of people calling for him to retire. I just want to say that before this fight happens. I think either this fight, maybe one or two more, he should definitely consider retiring, and stick to the broadcasting side of the business. But Casey Kenny, he's not someone I've watched super closely, but his last couple of fights have been impressive. He's been active. He's hungry. He's young. He's not ranked right now. And for him to step into the ring against someone like Dominick Cruz, I think he understands that there's a lot on the line for him and an opportunity that probably won't present itself again. So, if he can get a decisive win here, I think this will be a great way to just launch into the rankings of bantamweight.
Actually, I would have to disagree with you on this one. I think that it's not really time for Dominick Cruz to retire. Like if you compare him to other champions that, like, let's say, fell off, like Chris Weidman or Luke Rockhold, I don't think that's where Dominick Cruz is at this point in his career. He lost to Henry Cejudo. I mean, like, that's Henry Cejudo, one of the best flyweights in the world. But I feel like he still has it, even at his age. I feel like he still has it. Very high IQ fighter. I do love him as a commentator, but I feel like if he still enjoys fighting, if he's still good at it, I feel like he should still continue. I'm going to side with him on this fight.
Just to cut you off, I mean, I'm not saying that he's losing it. I'm not saying he's deteriorating as a fighter. I'm saying due to his lack of activity this late in his career.
Yeah, but he says that his lack of activity is okay because he said he doesn't really believe in ring rust. So
yeah, I mean, look, the guy's not slowing down, and it's always better to retire when you're on top than one fight too late. I just personally, I don't think he's gonna get another title run. I think the only reason he got a title fight against Cejudo is because Cejudo wanted to beat Dominick Cruz for his name and add it to his legacy. Realistically, Dominick Cruz didn't really deserve to be in that title picture. And unless he's active, I don't think Dominick Cruz is gonna see a title in the bantamweight division for the rest of his career. I mean, like we just said,
I don't think that Cruz is a title fighter, but I do think he's capable of beating a lot of fighters in the division.
Absolutely.
So if he has a desire to fight, I'd love to see it continue. I'd love to see him continue fighting, but I love seeing. He's one of my favorite commentators as well. So either path he goes, I'm going to be happy with him, and I'm going to side with him on this weekend.
Agreed.
Okay, so you want to just read off the rest of the prelims,
sure.
And let's move on to the MMA news.
Absolutely, yeah. So before that, we have Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips. Joe Benavidez is taking on Askar Askarov.
Wait, before you move on, who's gonna win that fight?
I think Askarov is gonna win. I think he's a little bit under the radar. Not too many people know who he is, but I think Benavidez is on the tail end of his career, and Askarov is just. I feel like he's gonna get his hand raised.
I agree. I agree.
Before that, to start off the prelim card, we have Rogero Bontorin versus Kai Kara France. Should be another very interesting fight. Going to be a great way to start off the prelim card. Now, on the early prelim card, like we said, we have 5 events this time, which is unusual. Um, let's start from the beginning and work our way down. So we have Mario Bautista versus Trevin Jones, Uros Medic versus Alon Cruz, Livina Souza versus Amanda Lemos, Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews, Kennedy Zechuku, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, versus Carlos Olberg, and Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinoza. So, guys, this is going to be a very, very stacked event. This Saturday, pay-per-view starts at 10 p.m. I mean, you're going to want to watch this one. I think, like we said, this might be one of the greatest cards the UFC has ever put together. All right, so moving into the MMA news. We've had some pretty upsetting news this week, John. Khamzat Chimaev, I mean, he posted what sounded like a retirement statement. He posted on, for those that missed it, on his Instagram, he posted a picture that looked to be like he coughed up blood into the sink after training. I mean, he was saying how he doesn't know what kind of sickness this is, but winning the UFC gold isn't the biggest victory in his life. He sounds like he's taking a step back to focus on his health, which I think is a great idea. Shortly after, UFC president Dana White came out and said that he was just super emotional when that happened. The doctor, when Khamzat was brought to the United States, they put him on certain medications and some steroids to help him combat some of the symptoms that he's having, to get him back healthy into fighting condition. And instead of resting up the savage that he is, Khamzat went in and trained, which I'm sure was not good for his body, which possibly added to the complications he was already having. So Dana White claims that Khamzat just made an emotional statement, and we probably will not see the end of Khamzat. We likely will see him back. I know you and I both think that, hope and pray that we get him back into the octagon, because we've been speaking very highly of him since the beginning of our podcast. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, it's not even only Dana White. It's also like the Chechnya president or the leader of Chechnya basically said after Hamzat, as you said, as he retired, the Chechnya leader said, "No, you aren't, buddy." Like basically a lot of people are like look up to Hamzat, and he's basically not allowed to retire. So Dana White, the boss of the UFC, said he's not retiring. The Chechen leader said he's not retiring, but Hamzat still hasn't spoken on this yet. Last we heard from Hamzat, he was retiring. So honestly, as all the UFC aside, MMA aside, sports aside, I wish him a speedy recovery. I'm
Absolutely.
not sure if this is lingering. We were told that this is lingering complications from COVID. So, that could be very serious, that it could be permanent. So I hope that's not the case. I hope he's able to get the medical attention. I hope this is reversible. And I hope we could see him fight sometime in the near future, because he would be a huge star. You and I both regard him as one of the best fighters in the UFC. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would say he has almost, since Connor, probably the most hype that any fighter has had. I mean, just the amount of publicity that he generated on those three fights that he had on Fight Island. The kid's a stud. I think if his health was okay, he would literally be fighting once a month minimum. Like the dude's a hungry savage, and I think if we are, blessed enough to see him back into the octagon, he will prove exactly why.
Yeah. All right. So in other news, John Jones and DC have been going at it again. So DC on his show with Errol Hawani basically said that John Jones doesn't have knockout power. And then John Jones went to Instagram and posted a video of DC crying, and basically a video of him knocking out DC. So basically what John Jones is trying to say is that he does have knockout power, and DC's a crybaby. So
I mean, yeah, you said it right. Look, man, DC sounds very bitter. I mean, there are people that take a loss and move on from it. DC always has something to say about why he's better than John Jones, or like, kind of tries to one up John Jones. Truth is, John Jones, like we mentioned, is his daddy. Like John
When it
Jones,
comes to when it comes to fighting,
I think life.
nah,
So
definitely
look,
not life. Definitely not life.
DC, a guy who got knocked out by John Jones 2 times, is going on a huge show on ESPN and telling people, "Oh, John Jones doesn't have knockout power." Like, how dumb does that sound? Like, you got knocked out by him 2 times. How are you going to say he does not have power? This does
Yeah,
not
no,
make sense.
he said that he doesn't have knockout power in his hands. He doesn't have knockout punching power. He said.
This is MMA, not boxing. So
He said no. He followed up and said that his kicks are hard, his knees are hard, but his hands are not. I agree with you. He should be the last person to say that. I would agree that I don't think that John Jones is gonna knock out most people in the heavyweight. But you did bring up a good point. He did gain some weight. He does look bulkier.
he's been putting on a crazy amount of weight and power.
He has more. Yeah, I know. As Chael said, no one ever put on 20 pounds of lean muscle in, what did he say, like a month or so, 2 months?
I don't know. But for those that haven't seen John Jones post that video, I suggest go watch it. It's hilarious. And if you look at the comments, John Jones pinned a couple of his comments. So first one, it says, "Tap here if DC cried in the car." The second one, "Tap here if you believe DC will be bitter for the rest of his life." And that one got over 22,000 likes. I agree right there 100%. As I said, I feel like DC is always going to try to one up Jones. John Jones is the one blemish pretty much on DC's career for the most part. But John Jones is his daddy, and I don't think he should be disrespecting him like that.
John Jones is his daddy when it comes to fighting.
Period.
No, when it comes to fighting. All right. So in other MMA news, Inside the Clinch MMA podcast has been in the news as well. So ESPN MMA posted a video of what's her name?
Angela Hill breaking down Israel.
She was breaking down the technique of Israel Adesanya. And I wake up this morning to Eric commenting on the post saying that, what did you say?
I said, shouldn't you have a winning record before you critique the striking of one of the most phenomenal athletes in MMA? And apparently a lot of people did not like that statement because we got quite a lot of hate.
we got quite a lot of hate, but we also got quite a lot of love. So there's no such thing as
Angela Hill. One thing everyone was saying is not to critique her as a fighter when I am not one. As far as her fighting career, I fully respect what she does, but I do not think she's the most talented athlete. And the whole point of my statement was that she needs to polish up her own striking and her own technique before she goes out and criticizes the striking of Israel Adesanya, who's one of the most amazing strikers that the sport has ever seen.
I mean, she wasn't criticizing it; she was
breaking down
statistically. I personally didn't really have any issue with that, but I just thought it was hilarious, and the things that people were saying to us, calling us like stuff like not respecting women.
They started throwing race in there, gender in there. Like, come on, guys, it's a fight game. Get all that bullshit out of here.
Yeah, but I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, we got some traction on Instagram today, so that was good. All right, so to close up, there have been some new fight announcements. Luis Pena is going to be taking on Alexander Munoz on April 17th. Jimmy Flick is going to be taking on Francisco Figueiredo on May 8th. That's Davidson Figueiredo's younger brother. Edison Barboza is fighting Shane Burgos on May 15th at UFC 262. And Matt the Immortal Brown is going to fight Diego Lima on June 19th. Those are some of the new fights that have been announced, some of the bigger fights. So good things to come in the UFC.
Exciting, man. Like I said, I'm super, super, super excited for this weekend. I can't fucking wait. But yeah, guys, as always, thank you for joining us for another round of Inside the Clinch. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on social media. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on YouTube and Facebook, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thanks, guys, and see you next week.